How we going, guys? Well, the Baggy Green's gone 2-0 up in the Ashes, and Australia are flying. Yes, they had a couple of injuries. They had Hazelwood out, Cummins out, but didn't really worry because we've got plenty of depth in our bowling attack with Nisa and Richardson coming in. Now, Artel Burrell, Kulkarni, thanks very much for joining us. It's a little late than normal with a live Hoggy, but the test match went a little later. So we're going to go live, and I'm going to get Harmy on board now. Can we get Harmy up there, please? There he is. Look at him all the way from England. How you going, Harmy?
I'm smiling, but I'm devastated on the inside. I'm smiling because we've put up a little bit of a fight, but not enough. And I've just heard our captain talk about, well, a few things in his end of game press conference where if I was one of them bowlers in that side, I think I would have tore strips off him when he come in the dressing room for the first time. But we'll get on to that.
All right. Well, you've mentioned it. Why would you tear strips off him? Because I thought he was quite honest out there, saying, "Well, we didn't adapt quick enough." And 4 years ago, we've done the same mistakes today, like 4 years ago. Is that why you would have torn strips off him?
I would have tore strips off him because he's told us that we didn't bowl full enough, and I would be saying, well, 10 times we bowled full enough, 10 times we made Australian batsmen nick it. And 10 times in 8 Ashes days of Test match cricket so far, we've dropped catches. So we are bowling full enough. We are creating chances, but we're not catching them. And that, for me, would be why I'd be having a go at what Joe had said, because you can say, right, I want you to bowl fuller, but we are bowling fuller. You're just not. We're not catching them. Marnus Labuschagne, he's got his first Ashes Test 100. He was dropped on 31. I think 31, 35, 95, and he was out on 100. Now we lose the Test match by 275 runs. If you drop the bloke 3 times, I dropped him twice and then he was out no ball. If you drop him twice and he's out with a no ball, you're going, well, we are creating chances. We're not good enough to catch them.
Well, it's quite funny how they say, oh, we didn't bowl full enough. But if you look at the stats, if you get it around that, as a pace bowler, around that 8 metre to 6 metre mark, you're generally in the game. And that's where you keep it quite economical. And that's where you do get the edges. And yes, they've got the footage there. If you're a little bit fuller, you did get the wickets. But really, you go back to it, it's all about the drop catches. And how would Butler be feeling? How would you handle Butler in the change rooms now, knowing that he's a quality bloke?
Yeah, it is very difficult. You have to be as professional as you possibly can. Joss knows himself. He should have took them 2 catches. He took 2 absolute beauties as well. But I think, yeah, in the cold light of day, when you're not scoring runs, because that conversation, Hoggy, you know yourself. You've been in a dressing room with Big Glenn McGrath. If Ricky Ponton or Steve Waugh had come in and slagged the bowling unit off, I'm sure Big Glenn and Warney would have been straight back at him. Fair enough. They got runs. We didn't. We haven't. But if I was Broad and Anderson sitting in there, and I know for a fact it will be, they'll be going, you want us to bowl fuller? You want us to create more chances when we've dropped 10 catches and we're playing on a wicket where our number 7 has just faced 200 balls and we've been bowled out for 230 and 190 on a flat one. You're throwing bowlers under the bus. Let's have a look at ourselves here, and it could turn into a nasty bowlers v batters contest in the next team meeting, I think, in that England dressing room.
Well, you've got to be very careful with that, and I'll move on to that a little later because I'll keep that in the memory. But if you look at the difference between the two teams, it's the partnerships as well. Now, if you took those early chances of Labuschagne, you would have put the pressure on the likes of Head and even Steve Smith there, who still looks a little bit edgy as well. Green's out of form, and you let Carey off the hook too, who's early on in his career and able to go out there and play with a little bit of freedom with no pressure on them. So just the lead up to the next test match with those boys getting a little bit more confidence going into the next test match would be frustrating as a bowler as well.
Absolutely, 100%. So, and it's where England go next for the bowling unit, because you've got 2 experienced guys. And we've also got to remember, we said 4 years ago, England said 4 years ago, right? Never forget this. And I tell you what, there is a brilliant article by Jeffrey Boycott from 4 years ago. And he said word for word what has actually happened this last 2 weeks. And he said this will happen. If we don't, we've made mistakes on picking 4 80-mile-an-hour bowlers. And that's what England said. We'll not do that again. We'll learn from our mistakes. Our preparation will be meticulous going to Australia next time. We'll not pick 4 80-mile-an-hour bowlers who are innocuous at some points during cricket in Australia with a cookable ball. In this test match, we played 3 of them.
Well,
we played Anderson and Broad.
Yeah, well, you know Woody quite well. He's up there in Durham with you. Now, would have his body been able to hold up with 2 test matches in a row, knowing that you've got to go to Melbourne with a short turnaround?
Yeah, of course he would. Yeah, of course he would. He's more durable than he was 4 years ago, Hoggy. We've got to remember, he bowled 25 overs in 3 days. Brisbane finished in 3.5 days. So he had an extra day and rest in between. And this is my bugbear, Chris Silverwood, at the end of the last test match. And you know yourself what Ashes cricket's like, Hoggy, especially how tough it is for an English to go to Australia. And he says, it's a long, hard slog. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I'm like, no, it's not. The Ashes is not. It's a sprint. The Ashes is a sprint because if you don't get it right, it's over by lunchtime on Boxing Day. It's gone. Normally it's over by Perth for the 3rd test match. But the 3rd test match is Boxing Day. And, we've been beaten in Brisbane. We've been beaten in Adelaide. All of a sudden, if we get on a wicket where we bat first and Hazelwood's back and Cummins puts the ball in the right area because Stark might miss. If we're 40 for 4, Ashes is gone. It's finished. So it's not that. It's not a long series. So you had to play Wood. You had to take gambles early on to stay in the series for me.
The other thing too is that Australia went in with a very inexperienced attack. Steve Smith out the very end in the press conference said something about Mitchell Starc. It was great that he stood up and led this attack because he's been under so much scrutiny over the last couple of months. Now, going in with Jai Richardson, they looked quite comfortable against him and Nisa for a period early on with Root and Milan going well, and they looked as though they got the pressure on them. At some stage, they would have had to think, right, we've really got to take it to Mitchell Starc here and make sure we wear his confidence down going into that Melbourne Test match as well. I just thought they let him dictate terms when there wasn't much in the pitch for him where the ball was swinging.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at the way Mitchell goes. I think you've just got, as a batting unit, you've got to take the fact that Mitchell Starc is going to bowl wicket-taking balls. He bowls world-class deliveries. And I think you've got to try and nullify that delivery because he gives you scoring options. You can go 5 and over, 6 and over off Mitchell Starc. But as long as you don't give him a wicket or a confidence booster, he then becomes devastating. He becomes deadly. So I think, when people say, you go hard at Mitchell Starc, I just think you try and make sure you don't get out to him. If you don't get out to him, you'll get one off the leg, clip for 4. You'll get an over pitch one outside of stump, use the pace, 90 mile an hour through extra cover. It's when all of a sudden you play the ball that you shouldn't be playing at, or you take undue risk that you shouldn't take. And all of a sudden, Mitchell Starc, you know yourself, Hoggy, with a confidence bowler, if he gets his tail up, he can be devastating. And I think that's something that England have got to stop doing. Stop giving them chances. Cummins is the same. Stop giving them chances to take easy wickets, which makes it easier for he's a confidence builder that goes. But you can score off Mitchell Starc, and that is something that I don't think England have really have come to terms with yet.
Yeah, and there was something before the game too, or before the start of the play, where you saw the English and the Australians talking to each other. It just seems like there's too much friendliness in that aspect of it. On the day's play, and we did it as Australians. We knew that there were certain personalities that you don't go over and talk to. There's other personalities that you can go over and talk to. But those ones that needed an arm on their shoulder, don't talk to them. Make them feel uncomfortable. And I just don't think England have done that. Just one thing before we get into the questions, because this is a very important aspect. We've talked about the bowlers and the batters with after Joe Root's conference, that there might be a bit of argy-bargy there because he thought they should have bowled full. You're going into an environment now where you were told before coming over that you weren't going to go into quarantine or you weren't going to go into a lockdown situation. We could be going to Melbourne and Sydney in those scenarios where the bubble life is going to be a lot stricter. How are England going to cope with that before we get to the questions?
I think there's only one or two that might have an issue with it. I think Josh Butler will have an issue with it because I think his family's there, and he was the one that was hicking the most whether he was going to go to Australia or not. I think if the families can move inside them bubbles as freely as the players, I don't think there'll be too much of a problem.
Yep.
Bear in mind, what you've got Melbourne and Sydney. You've got you would normally have the freedom of over Christmas and over New Year, where more often than not, the English would have a boat on Sydney Harbour over the bridge for the fireworks and everything like that by a sponsor. Yep. And I think Australia would have the same. They would have a same like a party to celebrate the new year. Things like that was something that you look forward to on an Ashes tour. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. So it's going to be interesting to see who does suffer the most from it. I can't see there being too much of a problem as long as the families can move freely with the players, i.e. they can go into Sydney, they can go into Melbourne and be comfortable inside the hotel and things like that. I think that would be okay. But I think if there is an issue with the families not being able to move freely, I think you might see one or two decide that this is not acceptable. And I think that was more like that was said and spelled out from England players to the conversations I had with Cricket Australia before they went out there. So that's going to be an intriguing one. The one that I think might be the contentious one would be Josh Butler.
Yeah, no, I just watching him with some of his mannerisms throughout the Test match and the drop catches, I just think there was other things playing on his mind, in the back of his mind, just worried about that much. Yeah, and just before we do go to the questions, a lot of that does happen when you do tour, especially if you've just dropped a catch or you've had a bit of a bad run. It can get quite tough for some players, and when you're in a bio bubble situation like this, and you could be in a bit of a locked up situation, it even plays on you a lot more. So just get off the back of Josh Butler out there, English fans, because he's a lovely bloke, lovely ambassador to the game of cricket, and we want to see him do well, and he did a wonderful job today. Right, first question up there, please. I was going to say Shubs, but I don't think it's Shubs behind the scenes today. It's Artia. Yep. Vinay, how you going, mate? Hi, Hoggy. Congratulations to you. Do you think now it's going to be 5-0 in favour of Australia, because England have been mentally drained by Aussies, and it's going to be very tough for England to come back? Look, sad to say, I think it might be 5-0 now moving forward with everything that's happening on with England behind the scenes. As we just seen Harmy speaking there, the bowlers will be a little bit upset with what Joe Root said out in the middle, so that might just cause a little bit of unrest. So Silverwood and Joe Root have got to pick the team up very quickly, turn things around. I think they've just overplanned, and they've looked at the negative scenarios rather than looking out what they have to do moving forward to achieve their goals of beating Australia on Australian soil. What do you think, Harmy?
Yeah, I think it's 5-0 is probably the one that the bookies will stop taking bets on, because I think it just stares down the barrel of what happened 4 years ago and times gone by. But the one thing I will say on that about England is England's preparation hasn't been great. And I think they're now about to get to probably the point of test match readiness, i.e. the bowlers have got miles in the legs. The batters are getting used to sort of Australian soil. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next test match selection-wise for Australia, that if Stark doesn't play and it's as simple as Cummins comes back in for Stark and no Hazelwood, I thought the Australian bowling unit was to be got at this week in Adelaide. I thought that was I wouldn't say a weak, but I would say as not as deadly as what you would expect from an Australian unit from years gone by. And I thought that was there for the taking. I don't know about you, but I thought Nisa and Richardson, along with Stark, Lyon's a fantastic bowler, but them three seamers there, you're thinking, right, we could make some runs against them on a good pitch, and that wasn't the case. So if it is Cummins for Stark, England batters are getting more and more acclimatised to the Australian conditions. England might come back into it, but whether they come back into a full test match, I think time will tell.
That is a very good point, because they need Hazelwood back, but they don't want to risk him with injury. And Stark holding his back there after batting and throughout today's play, he might stiffen up as well. I agree with you. I think they're both able to be got out, Nisa and Richardson, but I'd rather play Richardson in front of Nisa. I think Richardson has got more variety. The ball wasn't swinging today, and he got a couple to seam away, so he's got more variety there. Next question, please, Vijay. Venkata Samanoj. Oh, Godagula. Hopefully I got that right. Why England are lacking a batsman who can bide time and take on opposition bowlers, maybe like Trott or Peterson type in present squad? Ask Hoggy and ask Harmy. For me, I think it's just too much white ball cricket and too much focus on white ball cricket from afar, looking from over here in Australia, looking into the English camp. And, and for me, you need that aggressive player in there. Josh Buttler is that aggressive player, but the batsmen out the top of the order aren't doing the job to put him in a position to take the game away from the opposition, and same with Stokes. So I think it's very good that they've got Pope in between Stokes and Buttler, but that top order, the two opening batsmen, have got to get them off to a good start where Root and Milan can do their business, and you've got an extra 20 overs at least on top to really wear that Australian pace attack, so the bottom half can really take the game away. What do you reckon, Harmy?
Yeah, another 20 overs in that first innings, and England might have been in more of the game. Australia would have just batted quicker to set up the declaration. The problem with Joss for me is he just doesn't know how to bat in Test match cricket, whether to go for it, go in between. We've just seen in the space of a month, we've seen him get 101 off 50 balls in a 2020 game and get 28 off 200 balls in a Test match. And I think he just struggles to find a happy medium of getting in between, because when he does go at it in Test cricket, he seems to get out when he gets around that 20, 30 mark. So for me, currencies, the runs, you win games, you set the games up, and that comes with the top of the order. And if you're constantly walking out, as England captain is, at 20 for 2 or 30 for 2 or 50 for 2, you're not winning cricket matches, and that is England's issue and England's problem. You're 100% right. First-class cricket, county cricket's not a problem. It's just when it's played and the structure of prioritising it, that is an issue for the red ball game, because there's too much onus on white ball cricket.
I think Australia are going to be in the same situation sooner than later, because we've got our big bash in the middle of our Shield competition as well, and we've only got 5 games out either side of it. Look, you don't want Josh Buttler in there trying to save games. You want Josh Buttler down the bottom just trying to take the game away and win games, like Arish Pant, for all the Indian fans out there, what he did to Australia in Brisbane. So let's just have a little bit of fun in that regard. Next question, please. Vijay. All right, here we go. Axel512. Hi, Hoggy. Congrats for the win. Yeah, thanks. I think the boys did a great job. Do you think England is missing Jofra Archer as an X factor? I do. I'm just a little bit worried about his injury, his elbow injury. Is he going to come back and bowl the sheer pace that we've seen before? And also, is he going to concentrate on white ball cricket rather than red ball cricket, because you need miles in your legs? And I hope that he does have at least 5 years for England at Test level, because he is a force to be reckoned with, and him and Wood bowling together would be exceptional viewing. What do you reckon, Harmy? Do you reckon Jofra Archer is going to come back?
I hope he does. The noises, I was critical of Jofra a couple of years ago, because I thought he doesn't want to play Test cricket. He doesn't want to. And then I seen him go to New Zealand, bowl 50 overs at Mount Maunganui, and then he played in South Africa, and he bowled his heart out. And I not changed my opinion of him, but I thought, you know what, you do want to play Test cricket, and I listened to him talk. He does want to play the game, so good on him. I just hope that this injury doesn't affect that mentality, because he bowled 40 overs in Mount Maunganui, 45 overs over there, where he could play a whole IPL and not bowl 45 overs. So that's just the conundrum of white ball stuff. But Axel, you're right. The X factor is frightening how good that kid is. I would just wish he was in an England shirt right now, because I think the England attack, like you said, with Wood and with Archer in it, would be honestly, it would be unbelievable.
Who would you bowl out the other end? Because you've got Anderson, Broad, and Robinson there. Who's got the best motor to just hold up one end, and who would be the spinner to help hold up an end as well? Knowing that you got Stokes there as well as an X factor, just to come and bowl that short pitch type spells that he does as well.
Yeah, you're probably looking now at Archer coming back and be the end of Broad and Anderson. Definitely Anderson,
Yep.
Possibly Broad and Anderson. If you think Jofra won't be fit for another, 3 to 6 months, and by the time he gets going, this could be Jimmy's last year in Test match cricket. So Jimmy probably gone. Stewart might have gone. Robinson looks a find. The height he bowls from, he is a find. He just needs his durability in Test cricket to 5-day game to get going. England need a spinner. We need to find a spinner from somewhere to balance the attack out. And if you had Broad or Robinson with with Wood and Archer alongside Stokes and a competent spinner, you've got a very, very good attack. You've got an X-factor attack. You've got a bit of pace. You've got somebody that can bowl line and length. And if you've got somebody that can hold an end up a bit like what Nathan Lyon does, you've got a good roll-round balanced attack that really is potent and firepower.
Well, that's the thing, finding a spinner, because you can go to someone like a Mason Crane, a leg spinner, but he's going to be a little bit more expensive than the off spinner. So you're sort of in a catch-22 where you want that holding pattern from the spinner, but you also want a wicket-taking ability as well, and you can't have both. So I think you're better off looking for an Ashley Giles type bowler when you've got those X factors of Jofra Archer and Wood. Have we got the next question up there, please? Artie. There we go. Austin Dacuna, how you going, Austin? Hope all's well with you. Good to see you back on the channel again. Do you think Root and Silverwood will be sacked as captain and coach if England lose 5-0? And are they missing Moeen Ali? Well, Moeen's not coming back. He's retired from Test cricket. A spinner who can bat out 7. Is this the worst England team in a long time? Ask Harmy and Hoggy. Look, I don't think you really want to go and sack Root and Silverwood. I think they've been out the helm Silverwood's been there for a short period of time, but he's sort of just finding his feet at that level. And Root, I think when you're looking at coaches and captains, you've got to look at the resources that they've had, the depth that they've got as well, and are they getting the right support through that county system to go over and deliver over in an Ashes series? So there's so much more than just saying, right, it's 5-0, all right, we've got to sack the coach and captain, because the players have got to perform as well. Moeen Ali batting out number 7. Someone like a Moeen Ali, I don't know what you'd think, Harmy, but I'd like to see him batting out 6, have the keeper batting out 7 type scenario, and then having a Wokes type bowler having 4 frontline bowlers down in your lower order. So if you're going to go with a batter that can bowl a bit of spin, you want him batting up in the top 6. Someone like a Head or even a Labuschagne with his leg spin. So for me, I think Moeen Ali would be a waste out number 7 in Australian conditions with his off spin. What do you think, Harmy?
Austin, you've got a point about will they survive Root and Silverwood, but unfortunately, Austin, it goes a lot deeper than just Silverwood and Root. It's a combination of prioritising white ball cricket. Whenever we lose the Ashes, we always blame county cricket. That's not the case. It's not the case. We've getting some great sides from county cricket, and county cricket will produce great players if we play it at the right time of the year. But unfortunately, when we're in the Northern Hemisphere and it rains for the best part of 6.5 months in that time, so you can only fit so much cricket in at prominent times. And unfortunately, white ball dominant is the way to go in England. Moeen's given the game up from a Test match point of view, and I don't blame him, because I thought he was messed around that much in his last year and a half. I thought his treatment in red ball cricket for England was nothing more than it was a disgrace. So I don't mind him. I don't mind him not playing, and I'm actually looking forward, because for the 3rd Test match, I'm in the BT studios with Moeen Ali. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Mo, because I've known Mo for a long, long time. He is a great kid, and he's somebody who's done brilliantly for England. The messages he puts out, from that Asian to sort of really be a good role model from the Asian background and trying to get people to play. And I would love to see him in the team, but I don't think he was treated right for the last 18 months of his Test career. Is this the worst England team in a long time? I'd say it's the worst batting unit, the weakest batting unit we've had for a long, long time. And that is something that needs rectifying pretty soon. And I think it could be as simple as trying to go with the most experienced players they've got at their disposal, fit them in an order, and chuck them out in front of 98,000 people at Melbourne.
I just want to go back to Mo and Ali with your comments there, just to help the viewers out there, because most of them are studying, most of them love their cricket. Some will be playing cricket as well, and if they want to go in those leadership roles, how they could learn something from how Mo and Ali was mucked around over the last 18 months.
Well, he was. First of all, it didn't help. He was in the taxi with Chris Wokes to the airport on the way to Sri Lanka, and he was in the COVID, so he had to isolate for an extra 2 weeks, which meant his preparation was put back. Then he didn't play in the Test match series there. His rest and rotation was during the India series, and I think it was for the third Test match. So England didn't pick him for the first two, played him in the third one, hoping that he would stay on for the fourth one. But he said, no, I'm not. This is when I was supposed to go home. You messed me about. I've been here for 2 and you didn't pick me. So there's that. During the summer, there was back to the West Indies, where Moen seemed to get, right, he got a job which nobody else wanted to do. England need an opener. Oh, we'll send Moen in. England need a number three. We haven't got a number three. Oh, well, Moen will do it. England need number 5 because we can't balance the side out. Oh, Moen will do it. And then all of a sudden, he never really got a structure of where he was batting. And people then criticize when he got out in certain ways. And it's like, well, if you play him as a batsman, he thinks like a batsman. If you play him as a number 8, he thinks like a bowler, and he bats accordingly that way. And I think by the time he sort of had 3 years of doing that, I just think Moen had enough of the way he was being treated as well.
Yeah, well, when you pick people, you pick them for the roles. Yes, you like people to be adaptable, but I agree with you. When you're batting in the top 6 or top 7, you bat like a proper batsman. When you get dropped down the order, you play with a lot more freedom. And I learned that when I started as a batsman in first class cricket, and then started bowling leg spin. All of a sudden, I'm down out number 8. And just felt that freedom. So you're playing rash shots. So I totally agree with you. You can't chop and change like that in different roles, especially going from a frontline batter to a lower order batter. I just think that's just ludicrous. Next question, please, Artie. There we go. Oh, better put the glasses on, getting old. Adi Kulshrita. How you going, mate? Hello, sir. Do you think this is the time for England to change their batting order and opening pair? Bless you too, Harmy, there with your little sneeze. Do you think Zach Crawley should come into the opening lineup? Because I've been very impressed with Hamid. He got a couple of good nuts in this particular innings. I still think Burns is so vulnerable falling over, especially with Mitchell Starc. If he gets it right with that swinging delivery, getting him LBW as he falls over and loses that balance. Even the right arm bowler's just swinging it in. He just doesn't look in control of the moving ball. And it surprises me how he's done so well over in England. So would you bring Crawley in for Burns or Hamid, or would you just stick with the same order now?
I'd go with Crawley for Hamid. As much as the kid he left the ball really well in Brisbane. He chipped one to mid-on, and he got out, nicked off again. And I go back to what I said about 5 minutes ago. I'd looked at my senior players now. We're 2-0 down on the Ashes. Burns is 30-odd Test matches in. He's not coming back to Australia in 4 years' time. Root's not coming back. He's definitely not coming back as captain. Milan's not coming back. Bairstow's not coming back. Stokes likely won't come back, and neither will Butler. And my batting unit for Melbourne, I'd bring Crawley in for Hamid. Burns is probably drinking last chance saloon bar, because if he fails again, I think that's his Test career more or less done for. I think England would move on from Rory Burns. So he Burns, Crawley, Milan, Root, Stokes, Bairstow, Butler. and they're my experienced players in one go and say, right, we need you all to stand up in the biggest occasion possibly, in the hardest environment possible. We need senior players to stand up now, and that's how I'd fit my unit in.
Rightio. So you'd even remove Pope. I was enjoying Pope, but
I just think he's a talent. He's got ridiculous talent, but it was a 3-card trick by Mitchell Starc. It was a no-brainer, right? Australia have seen Pope wants to field bat and ball. So what does he do? He runs around the wicket, 3 balls, and says, right, hit that, go over the wicket, 3-card trick. Yeah. Go on, there's a wide one, off you go, son. See you later.
All right, so
he fell for it. Hoggy, they always do.
They always do. So you'd go in with Bairstow knowing that he's not good against that extra pace.
Yeah, I'm hoping that people dampen it down for him. if the top four stand and bat for 3.5 hours, the 55, 60-old Kookaburra ball's not going to be as potent as what it was when it's brand new. So I'm working the theory that the top would fire.
I totally agree with you. Go with your experienced players. If you want to win an Ashes in Australian conditions, you've got to have that experience there. Totally agree with you. All right, have we got any more questions there, Artie? Oh, there we go. Hayden Mollenkamp. How are you going, Hayden? Good to see you. Good to see you on board. How could England better invest in future spinners? Well, firstly, I think same with Australia. You get bowling coaches in there to really nurture them as they come through, because we have a lot of fast bowling coaches on tour. We don't really have spinning coaches that go on tour to help with plans and so forth. And I think you've got to develop the spinners a lot earlier. They've got to bowl a lot more in county cricket, a bit like Australian spinners here in Shield cricket. The more overs they bowl in first-class cricket, the better they're going to be ready for international level as well. I think a lot of people say don't bowl the shorter form of the game. I think the shorter form of the game is good for the holding pattern side of things, but also to try and work batsmen out quickly and be adaptable. But I don't like players that are going to play Test cricket in the longer form playing too much of it. I like them to be exposed to it, but I like them to be bowling hundreds and hundreds of overs in Shield cricket. And I don't know whether they do that over in England or not. Do they get enough overs in first-class cricket over there, Harmy spinners?
That's the problem.
Not in the first half.
Not in the first half, because that's the problem that we go back to. You can talk about Silverwood, you can talk about Root, you can talk about ECB and preparations and everything like that. But county cricket always gets a kick. But the problem with county cricket is we play 7 games. We play 7 games before the end of May. Spinner doesn't get a spinner. Somehow you mentioned Mason Crane. Mason Crane would stand his hands in his pocket for 7 games. He'll not get a ball. He wouldn't get a ball. He'd not get a ball.
Yep.
And this is what I remember 8 years ago. We came back from Australia. Scott Borthwick played in the Sydney Test match, and I'd just come into the media. I'd just come out of cricket, full-time cricket, and they asked me, "What would you do with Scott Borthwick?" And I said, "Give him a central contract and send him to Essex or Sussex on loan." Chief Executive Durham rang me up and went ballistic. "What are you doing, shouting, saying things like that?" I said, "Well, David, we've got 4 first-class matches at Durham before May. He ain't going to bowl. He's going to bat at number 3. He's an England Test player now, and he's not going to get a game for England because he's not going to get a bowl." That's the problem we've got in our country, is that we play red ball cricket at a time which doesn't suit our spinners. And that is becoming more and more evident year upon year, the structure of English cricket, the way it is at the moment.
Yeah, and it's very similar over here in Australia as well. So it's not much different, and we've got to work it out, and we've got to try and find a way to send them to some region in the world where they can actually learn their craft and bowl a lot of overs in a first-class environment. Even go over and play in Sri Lanka. We sent a number of spinners going over to Sri Lanka, and they were playing in the club cricket there, and they learnt so much, but they got a number of overs under their belt as well, which really helped. Any more questions there, please, Artie? Oh, here we go. Yep, there we go. Kulkarni, how are you going? Hey, guys, don't you think of late England have had too many collapses and have losing test matches mainly due to poor fielding and excessive overstepping? Well, overstepping is a major one. Fielding, There are a few fielders there that are being carried. Yes, I agree with that. And you look at the partnerships between England and Australia in this Test series, there is so much discrepancy. Australia have got a lot more 50-plus partnerships, probably even more, a lot more 20-plus partnerships, which is crucial to win a Test series. You need to bat for long periods of time, and it's only really Milan and Root that have stood up and created decent partnerships for England. So for me, this is better for you to answer, Harmy. It's your team, England.
I think it's quite simple. Australia have dropped 1 catch in 8 days of Ashes cricket. England have dropped 10. There's your partnerships. England, if you catch, even if you catch 7 out of them 10, then all of a sudden the partnerships are a lot smaller and the game's got a bit closer together. And you see then the pressure really comes. At the minute, England's discipline has been poor, and for me, that's why they're in the position of 2-0 down going into Melbourne.
Yep, definitely. And what about the overstepping with the bowling? You're a fast bowler.
The size 12s. I'm struggling to wonder how you can't keep some part of a size 12 behind a white line. I really struggle with that one. I didn't bowl many myself. I also work the theory that if I put my foot over the line, I've got to bowl another ball, and that takes some effort and takes some energy, and it hurts. So you try and keep your feet behind the line. Comes with discipline, whether it's in the nets, overstepping, whether that's just simple preparation, that trying to get back on the horse and start bowling again because I haven't bowled as much outdoors. You can throw all that at you, but it's simple. The line's there for a reason. You got to have something behind it. I can't stand up for bowlers who don't keep the foot behind the line.
Well, Ben Stokes has probably been the biggest culprit of it, and he bowls long spells every now and then. He doesn't bowl in patches because of injury, and they're trying to save him for the batting and so forth. But when he puts in that extra effort ball, he generally goes over by an extra foot or extra couple of inches. How can he rectify that as a bowler yourself? Not when you're going to bowl the effort ball.
I think it's just being aware of also a little bit of help with the umpire. Umpire standing there. Normally, I'd get a little tap on the shoulder as I'm walking by. Come on, Harmy, give us a little bit. You're getting close. Don't want to really watching that line as opposed to watching the thing as well. And if umpire will say that quite a bit to you as you're walking by, Harmy, get back. Because if I'm watching that line and you get a close one, I'm probably not going to give it because I'm watching your foot. You go back. You do. You naturally drag back. So umpire's not calling them now probably doesn't help the bowlers because that communication between bowler and umpire, it's not there anymore. But what I would say is that if you know yourself, if you're getting closer, and I think the biggest tell was when Ben Stokes bowled David Warner. I think he knew when he didn't celebrate, he knew that was a no ball. He knew he was close to the line. And I think as a bowler, you do, so, you've got to have the discipline to pull yourself back.
Yeah, no, he did definitely know that. So it's disappointing in that regard. Have we got any more questions, or is that it? That's it. So Australia have gone up in the Ashes series 2-0. We go to Melbourne where it's going to be slightly flatter. Harmy wants a more experienced batting lineup in there. So Crawley in for Hamid, and who's in for Pope? Old Bairstow coming back in, that little fiery redhead. I'd love to see him back. I love the Yorkshire right-handed batsman. And hopefully we get Hazlewood and Cummins back in the Australian lineup. If we don't, I think Hazlewood's going to stay out, and we might keep Richardson in there with Cummins coming back, and hopefully Stark's fully fit. But thanks very much for joining us, Harmy. Goodbye to everyone. Thanks for joining us, guys. And make sure you subscribe onto Harmy's channel as well as my channel as well. Thanks very much for supporting me or us, and loving the game of cricket and loving the Ashes. And good luck to India and South Africa in their series coming up as well over the New Year break. All right then, guys. See you later.